Frickeroon. The moon of Virel 9 hung in the black like a pale scar, cold and quiet under the distant light of a dying star. Around it, ships from 7 alien species drifted in careful formation, their hulls shimmering with colors no human eye could fully name. At the center of it all, small and unassuming compared to the others, sat the Earth vessel, Horizon's Reach. Inside, Nathan Cole adjusted his collar for the 10th time and tried to steady his breathing. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't even a politician by trade. But Earth had chosen him to speak for all of humanity. And now, with the fate of billions resting on his words, he felt the weight like a stone in his chest. Beside him, Lila Grant tapped quietly on a handheld screen, her eyes scanning data streams from the Concord's latest transmission. She was calm where Nathan was tense, sharp where he was soft. A scientist first, diplomat second, she had spent the last 5 years studying the Veln, the Ketheri, the Orlan, every major species in the Galactic Concord. She knew their customs, their fears, even the rhythm of their speech. But none of that mattered now. The Concord had called this meeting not to talk, but to decide. "They're not going to listen," Lila said softly, not looking up. "They've already made up their minds." Nathan didn't answer. He watched through the viewport as a shuttle detached from the massive Veln command barge and glided toward the summit dome on the moon's surface. High Arbiter Core would be aboard. The Veln were the oldest members of the Concord, their civilization stretching back 10,000 years. To them, humanity was a spark, bright, sudden, and dangerous. The two humans boarded their own shuttle minutes later. No fanfare, no escort, just a quiet descent through thin atmosphere and onto gray dust that hadn't seen footprints in centuries. The dome rose ahead, a perfect silver half-sphere glowing with soft internal light. Inside, the air was warm and carried a faint scent like burnt cinnamon, standard Veln atmospheric preference. The chamber was circular, with 7 raised platforms arranged like petals around a central dais. 6 were already occupied. The 7th, marked with Earth's blue and white sigil, stood empty. Nathan and Lila took their places without speaking. All eyes turned to them. Compound eyes, lidless eyes, eyes that blinked sideways. But no one spoke until Core rose. His voice was low, resonant, each word measured like a stone dropped into still water. "Humanity has been granted patience," he began. "You were welcomed into the galactic fold despite your youth, your impulsiveness, your unpredictability. Yet in less than 2 centuries you have claimed 17 star systems, reverse-engineered forbidden drives, and ignored 3 direct Concord edicts." Nathan stepped forward. "We acted in good faith," he said, keeping his voice even. "The wormhole routes near Proxima were unstable. If we hadn't stabilized them, entire sectors would have collapsed. We shared the data freely." "Shared?" Core tilted his head, a gesture that among Veln meant disbelief. "You shared after you had already built military outposts along every exit point. You call that cooperation. We call it expansion." Lila spoke now, her tone respectful but firm. "We protected those routes because no one else would. The Kethari abandoned them. The Orlan declared them cursed. We stepped in to keep trade flowing. For everyone." A murmur rippled through the chamber. The Kethari envoy shifted uncomfortably. The Orlan remained still, their crystalline skin flickering faintly. Core raised a 3-fingered hand. Silence returned. "Enough," he said. "Words have failed. Actions speak now. The Concord has voted. You will withdraw from all colonies beyond Sol. You will dismantle your slipstream network. You will surrender your quantum core weapons research. And you will do this within 30 cycles. Nathan felt his stomach drop. 30 cycles, roughly 30 Earth days. "That's impossible," he said. "Billions live on those worlds. Mars alone has 400 million people." "Then move them," Core replied coldly. "Or we will move them for you." Lila's voice was quiet but sharp. "You're asking us to abandon everything we've built, to go back to being a single-planet species. That's not peace. That's exile." "It is mercy," Core said. "We could have demanded your extinction. Consider this your final warning." Nathan looked around the chamber. No one met his gaze. Not the Kethari, who owed Earth aid during the Helios famine. Not the Orlan, who had traded music and mathematics with human artists for decades. They all looked away. Fear had won. Fear of what humanity might become. He took a breath. "And if we refuse?" Core's answer came without hesitation. "Then the Concord fleet will enforce compliance. By fire if necessary. The meeting ended there. No more debate, no appeals. Nathan and Lila walked back to their shuttle in silence, the weight of the verdict pressing down on them like gravity. As the shuttle lifted off, Nathan looked down at the dome one last time. It looked so small from above, so fragile. Back aboard the Horizon's reach, the crew waited in the command deck. Captain Elena Shaw stood near the helm, arms crossed, her face unreadable. She had been against coming. They never wanted to talk, she'd said. They wanted to sentence us. Now she only asked, what did they say? Nathan told her. The room went still. Some crew members looked at the floor. Others stared at the stars outside, as if searching for an answer in the dark. Lila walked to the comm station and opened a secure channel to Earth Command. Her voice was steady as she relayed the terms. When she finished, there was a long pause from the other end. Then General Derek Boone's voice came through, tired but clear. Understood. Activate Project Horizon. No one needed to ask what that meant. For years, in secret labs and hidden shipyards, Earth had prepared for this moment, not for war, but for disappearance. If they couldn't stay, they would leave. Not as refugees, but as ghosts. Nathan sat in his quarters later, watching Earth's message scroll across his screen. It was brief. Come home. We leave together. He thought of cities on Mars, domes on Europa, children born under alien suns who had never seen rain. All of it gone. Not destroyed, just taken away. By choice. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. The galaxy had spoken. Humanity was no longer welcome. But as Nathan closed his eyes, one thought remained. Leaving didn't mean losing. And silence didn't mean surrender. The shuttle turned towards Sol. Behind them, Varel 9 faded into the void. Ahead, a long journey home, and a decision that would change everything. Artud Earth's skies were never quiet anymore. Not since the message came back from Varel 9. The clouds parted daily for streams of ships, some small, some vast enough to blot out the sun, lifting off from every continent, every island, every hidden launch bay beneath the oceans. People watched from rooftops, from fields, from the windows of moving trains, their faces pale with disbelief and dread. They weren't fleeing a storm or a war. They were leaving everything behind because they had been told to go. And humanity had chosen to obey, not out of fear, but out of something deeper, something the galaxy would not understand for a long time. Commander Derek Boone stood on the observation deck of Lunar Command, his hands clasped behind his back, watching the last transports leave the surface of the moon. Dust spiraled in slow motion behind them, caught in the weak gravity. Below, entire bases were being sealed, stripped and buried under layers of self-hardening foam. Nothing would be left for the Concorde to find. Not a tool, not a data chip, not even a footprint. Maya Ruiz moved beside him, her tablet glowing with status reports from every corner of human space. Her dark hair was tied back, her eyes tired but sharp. She had designed half the evacuation protocols herself, working through sleepless nights in underground labs beneath Denver. Now she tracked the movement of over 12,000 vessels in real time, each one carrying lives, memories, and pieces of a civilization that refused to die quietly. They're ahead of schedule, she said, her voice low. Mars is at 98% evacuation. Titan's last biodome lifted off an hour ago. Even the deep mining stations in the Kuiper Belt are empty. Derek nodded. Good. We don't get second chances. He turned away from the window and walked down the corridor, his boots clicking against the metal floor. Every wall screen showed countdowns, routes, and system statuses. In one corner, a young technician wiped tears from her eyes as she watched a live feed from Jakarta, her home city, now being dismantled by automated cranes, its skyline vanishing floor by floor. No one was forced to leave, but no one stayed either. The choice had been made by every nation, every colony, every family. If humanity could not live among the stars as equals, they would vanish entirely. Not with fire, but with silence. On Earth, cities emptied like sand through fingers. Trains ran on autopilot, ferrying the last citizens to coastal spaceports. Farms were harvested one final time, their crops stored in vacuum-sealed vaults aboard orbiting arcs. Museums, libraries, schools, all were scanned, digitized, and loaded onto quantum drives no larger than a human hand. Even the trees of Central Park were sampled, their DNA preserved in cryovials. In Geneva, the old United Nations building stood empty. Its flags were gone, Its halls echoed with ghosts of speeches long past. But in a bunker beneath it, Nathan Cole and Lila Grant coordinated the final data purge. Every government server, every military archive, every private cloud, wiped clean or encrypted beyond recovery. What couldn't be taken was erased. What couldn't be erased was buried. We're not just leaving, Lila said as she watched a progress bar reach 100%. We're making sure they never really knew us at all. Nathan didn't answer. He was thinking of his niece, who had been born on Ganymede and had never seen Earth's oceans. She was aboard the Odyssey now, sleeping in a pod lined with soft light, dreaming of stars she'd never visited. He hoped she would understand one day that this wasn't defeat, it was strategy. Back on the moon, Maya oversaw the activation of the final failsafe. A series of seismic charges buried deep in the lunar crust would collapse the main tunnels after the last shuttle departed. The moon would look untouched from orbit, just another dead rock. But beneath its surface nothing would remain. Captain Elena Shaw guided her ship, the Vanguard, through the debris field near Jupiter. Her crew worked in silence, rerouting power, checking seals, monitoring the slipstream drive that would soon carry them far beyond known space. They weren't running. They were retreating to regroup, to rebuild, to wait. Signal from Sol Station, her comms officer said. All clear. Final window opens in 6 hours. Elena nodded. Tell the fleet to prepare for synchronized jump. No stragglers. Across the solar system, thousands of ships aligned their coordinates. From Mercury's scorched plains to Neptune's icy rings, humanity gathered its children, its history, its hope, and prepared to disappear. The Concorde watched from a distance. Their scouts reported strange activity. Power grids shutting down, orbital stations going dark, comms falling silent. At first, they thought it was a trick. Then they realized the truth. Humanity was actually leaving. High Arbiter Core received the news in his chamber aboard the Veln flagship. He stared at the star map showing Sol's system fading into black. They obeyed, he said more to himself than to his aides, but something in his voice sounded uneasy. On Earth, the last shuttle lifted from Cape Canaveral just before dawn. Below, the launch pad crumbled into the sea as programmed charges detonated. Waves swallowed the concrete. Birds flew over empty streets. The wind moved through silent houses. In orbit, the final fleet assembled. 1,000 ships, each carrying a piece of what humanity had been. No flags flew. No anthems played. Only the hum of engines and the quiet breath of people holding on to each other. Derek Boone gave the order from Lunar Command just before it self-destructed. Execute Horizon. And then in perfect unison, every ship activated its slipstream drive. Space bent. Light twisted. And in less than a second, humanity was gone. The solar system fell silent. No radio chatter. No engine trails. No life signs. Just planets turning in the dark as they had for billions of years before humans came, and now as they would for billions more. The Concorde sent probes. They found nothing. No weapons, no traps. Just empty cities, clean data cores, and a single message looping on every frequency. We chose peace. Do not follow. Back in hidden space, far beyond the edge of known charts, the first arc opened its comms array. Nathan, Lila, Derek, Maya, Elena, they all listened as Earth's final broadcast ended. Then they turned their eyes forward. They had left everything, but they had not lost. And somewhere in the void, humanity began again. 3 months passed. The stars burned as they always had, indifferent to the sudden silence where humanity once spoke. The Galactic Concorde returned to its routines. Trade routes reopened, patrols resumed, debates filled council chambers. At first they celebrated. The volatile newcomers were gone. Order had been restored. But as the weeks stretched into months, a quiet unease settled over the member species. It was not relief they felt, but something colder. Doubt. Humanity had vanished too cleanly. No wreckage. No last stand. No final message of anger or sorrow, just that single phrase looping like a ghost in empty space. We chose peace. Do not follow. It played on every abandoned station, every dead satellite, every derelict buoy the Concorde dared approach. And then even that stopped. The silence became total, yet the galaxy could not forget. Strange things began to happen in the dark. A Cathari freighter reported a phantom signal near the Helios expanse. Human voice patterns, repeating coordinates that led to nothing. A Veln science vessel found an asteroid field rearranged into a perfect spiral, each rock spaced with impossible precision. Sensors detected no ships, no energy signatures, no signs of recent activity, just the pattern waiting. Lila Grant watched these reports from the bridge of the Odyssey, now hidden in the shadow of a rogue gas giant drifting between stars. Her eyes moved over the data, calm but alert. She had expected this. Not the fear, perhaps, but the curiosity. The galaxy had never truly understood humanity's patience. They mistook quiet for weakness. Now they were learning the difference. Around her, the ship hummed softly. It was no longer a transport, but a mobile command node, part of a network scattered across uncharted space. Every ark, every scout vessel, every hidden habitat now served a single purpose: watch, listen, and remember. Nathan Cole stood near the viewport, his hands in his pockets. He looked older, his face lined with the weight of choices made and lives uprooted. "They're looking for us," he said quietly. "They always will," Lila replied. "But they won't find us, not unless we want them to." She tapped a command into her console. Far away, near the edge of the old Sol system, a dormant satellite powered on. It sent out a single pulse, harmless, unreadable to alien tech, but a signal to other human nodes, all clear. The Sentinel network was awake. This was Project Watchtower, born from Maya Ruiz's designs and Derek Boone's strategy. Thousands of tiny devices, disguised as space debris, now floated in forgotten orbits. They recorded everything: ship movements, comms chatter, energy spikes. None could be traced back to human hands. To the conquered, they were just cosmic noise, but to humanity, they were eyes. Captain Elena Shaw guided her stealth flotilla through the dust clouds of the Cygnus Rift. Her ships, once cargo haulers, had been stripped down, coated in light-absorbing mesh, their engines muffled to near silence. They carried no weapons, only sensors and decoys. Their mission was simple: make the conquered feel watched. Earlier that week, her team had triggered a false slipstream echo near a Veln mining outpost. For 3 hours, scanners showed a human fleet approaching. Panic spread. Ships scrambled. Then, nothing. The signal vanished. No ships, no trace. Just confusion. Elena allowed herself a small smile. Fear was a powerful tool, and humanity had learned to wield it without firing a shot. Back on the Odyssey, Nathan reviewed a new report. A conquered patrol had gone missing near the Oort cloud remnants of Sol. No distress call. No debris, just gone. He frowned. That wasn't part of the plan. Lila saw his expression. "It wasn't us," she said before he could ask. "Our protocols forbid contact. Someone else is out there or something." They both knew the truth. Space was vast. Humanity wasn't the only mystery in it. But the Concord wouldn't think that way. They would assume it was humans, and that assumption was enough. On a hidden habitat orbiting a nameless brown dwarf, Derek Boone met with engineers and scientists in a dimly lit chamber. Maps of the galaxy covered the walls, marked with symbols only humans understood. Red dots showed conquered fleet movements. Blue lines traced safe corridors through dead zones. Green pulses indicated active sentinels. "We're not hiding forever," Derek said. "We're buying time. Time to build, to heal, to become something they can't predict." Maya Ruiz stood nearby, her fingers tracing a route through the Perseus arm. "The new arcs are ready," she said. "Self-sustaining. Fully automated. They can seed ecosystems on dead worlds, grow forests from stored DNA, raise cities from nanoforges buried in the soil." Derek nodded. "Then we send them. Not to reclaim. Not to conquer. To remind the galaxy that life doesn't need permission to exist." That night, 3 arcs detached from the main fleet and vanished into Slipstream. Their destinations were random, their paths untraceable. They carried no humans, only seeds, data, and hope. Meanwhile, the conquered grew restless. High Arbiter Corps called emergency sessions. Patrols doubled. Old treaties were questioned. The Cathari accused the Orlan of hiding human collaborators. The Orlan denied it, but their crystalline skin dimmed with suspicion. In the silence humanity left behind, the galaxy began to turn on itself. Lila stood alone on the Odyssey's observation deck, watching a distant nebula swirl in colors no artist could name. She thought of Earth, real Earth with its rain and wind and laughter. She missed it. But she didn't regret leaving, because out here in the deep dark, humanity was no longer a guest. It was becoming something else. Something patient, something unseen, and unseen things are the hardest to fight. A soft chime sounded behind her. A new alert. Another anomaly detected near the ruins of Titan. This time, a repeating mathematical sequence, prime numbers, then a fragment of Beethoven's Ninth. Human, deliberate, unexplained. Lila didn't order an investigation. She simply logged it and let it broadcast. Let them wonder. Let them fear. Let them remember that silence does not mean absence. And somewhere, in the endless night between stars, humanity waited, not to return but to decide what came next. Bidapur. The first patrol vanished near the Helios expanse without a sound. A Veln scout ship, small and fast, sent its last routine check-in and then went dark. No explosion. No distress call. Just silence. The Concord sent a recovery team. They found nothing, not even a scrap of hull. Only empty space and a faint echo on their sensors like a whisper fading into static. Then it happened again. A Cathari freighter escort disappeared near the old Mars orbit. Then a joint Orlan-Veln science vessel near the edge of the Kuiper belt. Each time the same pattern. Normal comms, then sudden silence, then nothing. No wreckage, no bodies, no signs of battle. Panic spread through the Concord faster than any virus. Council chambers filled with raised voices and flickering displays. Accusations flew. The Cathari blamed Veln security failures. The Orlan suggested sabotage from within. High Arbiter Corps demanded answers, but none came. Their best analysts found no evidence of weapons fire, no energy spikes, no slipstream trails. It was as if the ships had simply blinked out of existence. What they did not know was that Captain Elena Shaw watched it all. From the dark, her flotilla, 3 retooled freighters painted black and wrapped in sensor-dampening mesh, drifted just beyond the range of Concord scanners. On her main screen, she saw the panic unfold in real time, pulled from hacked comms relays and passive listening posts hidden in asteroid clusters. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply nodded. This was not war. This was theater. Weeks earlier, Maya Ruiz had overseen the deployment of the first ghost buoys, tiny devices that mimicked human ship signatures using old broadcast patterns and randomized quantum noise. When triggered, they created the illusion of a vessel appearing, transmitting, then vanishing. No real ship was ever there. Just a trick of light and data, but the Conquered didn't know that. To them, it looked like humanity had returned and was hunting them. Elena's team had also seeded old human colonies with dormant firmware traps. Harmless on the surface, they waited for alien systems to interface with abandoned human tech. Once connected, they triggered cascading failures, shutting down power grids, scrambling navigation, locking doors. No damage, no destruction, just confusion. On the Veln mining outpost of Keth 7, an entire operation froze when every console flashed the same message for 3 seconds. Remember Saul. Then everything returned to normal. No one could explain it. No one could replicate it. But the workers refused to go back underground. They said the walls felt like they were watching. Back aboard the Odyssey, Nathan Cole reviewed the reports with quiet satisfaction. "They're scared," he said. Lila Grant stood beside him, arms crossed. "Good. Fear keeps them from looking too hard. While they chase ghosts, we build." And build they did. In hidden shipyards nestled inside icy comets and hollowed-out moons, new vessels took shape. Not warships, not even transports. These were seed arcs, self-guided, self-repairing, carrying libraries of Earth's knowledge, DNA banks, and terraforming cores. Their mission was not to fight, but to grow, to plant life where none existed, to remind the galaxy that humanity's legacy was creation, not conquest. Derek Boone coordinated the launches from a command node buried deep in the rings of a dead gas giant. Each arc carried no crew, only AI caretakers programmed with one rule: avoid all contact. If detected, vanish. If threatened, self-destruct. Their existence was a secret even most humans didn't know about. But the Concorde only saw the shadows. Rumors spread faster than facts. Some claimed human ghosts haunted the void. Others whispered that Earth had unlocked a new kind of weapon, one that erased ships from reality. A fringe Veln sect even began preaching that humanity had ascended beyond physical form and now judged the galaxy from the dark. High Arbiter Core tried to silence the rumors. He ordered tighter patrols, stricter comms protocols, and full system sweeps, but every scan found nothing. Every probe returned empty. The more he tried to prove humanity was gone, the more his people believed they were still there, closer than ever. Then came the incident at the Proxima Relay. It was a major Concord hub, linking 3 species through a stabilized wormhole. One morning, all systems shut down for exactly 17 seconds. During that time, every screen in the station displayed a single image, Earth's blue marble as seen from lunar orbit, with the words, "We left by choice," beneath it. Then everything rebooted as if nothing had happened. No breach was found, no virus detected. The station's chief engineer, a Cathari with 40 years of service, resigned the next day. He said he could no longer trust his own machines. Elena received the news while sipping recycled coffee in her cramped quarters. She set the cup down and opened a secure channel to the Odyssey. "Phase 2 is working," she said. "Don't push too hard," Lila warned. "We don't want them desperate. We want them cautious." "Understood," Elena replied, just enough to keep them looking over their shoulders. That night, her flotilla moved again, silent, slow, vanishing into a dust cloud near the old Titan shipyards. From there, they launched a new set of decoys, each programmed to activate in a different sector over the next month. The game would continue. Meanwhile, on a distant habitat orbiting a frozen moon, children played in hydroponic gardens under artificial suns. They had never seen Earth. They had never heard gunfire. To them, the Concord was a story, a cautionary tale told before bed. Their teachers spoke of peace, of patience, of building rather than breaking. Nathan watched them through a window, his reflection ghostly against the glass. He thought of the fear spreading through the galaxy and felt no joy. Only resolve. Humanity had not become monsters in the dark. They had become mirrors, showing the Concord their own paranoia, their own fragility. The galaxy had cast them out. Now it feared what it could not see. And in that fear, humanity found its shield. Far away, another ghost buoy activated near a Veln border station. Sensors lit up. Alarm sounded. Ships scrambled. But by the time they arrived, there was only silence, and the cold, endless stars. The Concord held its breath, and somewhere in the void, humanity prepared for what came next. Barcy, the message came without warning. One moment, the galaxy was quiet. The next, every major comms channel, Veln, Cathari, Orlan, even the fringe trader nets, filled with the same sound. Not static, not code, a human voice, calm, clear, speaking in galactic standard, the common tongue of the Concord. "We left not because we were weak, but because we chose peace. Do not mistake our silence for surrender." It lasted only 10 seconds. Then it repeated. And repeated again. No origin point. No signal trail. Just the words echoing across star systems like a stone dropped into still water, rippling outward with no end in sight. High Arbiter Core stood in his private chamber aboard the Veln flagship, staring at the display as the message played for the 7th time. His hands trembled, not from age but from something deeper. Doubt. He had spent months insisting humanity was gone, erased, finished. Now this, not a threat, not a demand, just a reminder. And it terrified him more than any fleet ever could. Across the Concord, panic turned to silence. Patrols halted. Trade slowed. Council sessions were postponed. No one knew what to do. Was it a trick, a final warning, or something else entirely? The message carried no malice, yet it felt heavier than any declaration of war. Far from the eyes of the Concord aboard the Odyssey, Nathan Cole watched the reaction unfold through intercepted feeds. He did not smile. He did not speak. He simply turned to Lila Grant and nodded. The final phase had begun. This message was not meant to scare. It was meant to end the guessing. To draw a line in the void and say, "We are still here, but we are not your enemy unless you make us one." While the Concord debated, humanity moved forward. In hidden shipyards buried inside icy rings and drifting nebulae, the last of the Aurora arcs prepared for launch. These were not like the earlier seed vessels. These carried people, families, scientists, artists, children who had only known life among the stars. Each arc was a world unto itself, self-sustaining, shielded, and coded with routes to places no alien map had ever named. Maya Ruiz oversaw the final checks from a command hub nestled in the shadow of a dead star. Her fingers flew across the console, confirming life support, navigation, and memory cores. Every arc held not just supplies but stories, recordings of Earth's oceans, songs from old cities, voices of grandparents long gone. Humanity was not just surviving. It was preserving itself not for the past but for the future. Derek Boone stood beside her, arms crossed, watching the countdowns. "They'll look for us," he said. "Let them," Maya replied. "By the time they find one, we'll be 10 steps ahead." Captain Elena Shaw guided her flotilla away from the inner sectors, deeper into the uncharted arms of the galaxy. Her mission was changing. No more ghosts. No more tricks. Now she would scout real homes, planets with air, water, and silence. Places where humanity could grow without permission. On one of the arcs, a young girl named Mira pressed her face against the observation glass, watching a nebula bloom in soft violet light. She had never seen Earth, but she knew its name. Her teacher had told her that Earth was where humanity began, but not where it would end. Mira believed that. She pointed to a distant star and whispered, "There." Back on the Odyssey, Lila activated the final layer of Project Horizon. The Sentinel network, thousands of hidden buoys, drones, and data relays began a slow fade. One by one they powered down, erased their logs, and drifted into cosmic dust. The watching was over. Now came the living. Nathan stood alone on the bridge, looking out at the endless dark. He thought of the summit on Varel 9, the cold voice of Kor, the weight of 1 billion lives in his hands. He had chosen silence then. Now he chose something else, distance. Not hatred, not revenge. Just space, to be, to build, to become. The conquered would never understand. They saw power in fleets and weapons. Humanity had shown them another kind of power, the power to walk away, to vanish, and still leave a mark so deep it echoed in their dreams. Weeks passed. The message stopped broadcasting as suddenly as it began. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for what came next. But nothing came. No attacks, no demands, no ships. Just quiet. And in that quiet, something new began to grow. On a small blue-green world orbiting a lonely star, the first Aurora arc touched down. Its landing struts sank into soft soil. Hatches opened. People stepped out, not as conquerors, but as gardeners. They planted seeds saved from Earth. They set up solar panels. They played music under a sky with no history, no wars, no conquered. Far away, another arc found a moon with underground oceans. Another, a desert planet with twin suns. Each group carried the same mission. Live well, remember who you are, and never ask for permission to exist. The conquered sent scouts, of course. They found empty systems, silent buoys, and once, a single flower growing in the ruins of an old human outpost, its petals glowing faintly in the dark. Genetically coded to bloom only under Earth-like light. They took samples. They ran tests. They found no threat, only beauty. High Arbiter Kor retired soon after. He spent his final years staring at star charts, wondering if humanity had ever been the danger, or if the danger had always been the fear of something different. Back among the stars, Nathan, Lila, Derek, Maya, and Elena each took their own paths. Some stayed with the fleet. Others joined the arcs. All carried the same truth: they were not lost. They were free, and the galaxy, once so sure of its order, now looked into the dark and wondered. For the first time, the stars themselves seemed to listen, and somewhere in the endless quiet between worlds, humanity began again, not as a whisper but as a promise.